The next clean investment opportunities could be moderated by Chip Cummins. It will include Robert Lavia of Formula E, Mohammed Kodabash from New Beginnings, and Brian Sherbakow from Alt Air Fuel. Give them a hand and welcome them up.
And I'm delighted that one of our leading sponsors, Veramonte, through its Formula E, is going to be talking now about some of the breakthrough technologies that we're going to see coming at us, and that are going to give us the opportunity to actually solve the issues that are being discussed here today. Why divest, invest? Why it's so important that solar, wind, biofuels, energy efficiency, and economic strategies that we've been listening to yesterday are implemented. So to begin, I want to direct my first question to Robbie Lavia, the Chief Investment Officer for Veramonte. Can we hear from you about who Veramonte is and how you found yourself involved in clean energy in this journey over the past couple years?
Well, thank you, Chip, for the intro. So Veramonte is a holding company. It's actually held by one individual, and we're invested in all types of investments, from real estate to agriculture to energy. And our most exciting platform right now is Formula E, which is kind of we'd call it the ideal platform for electric cars globally. So we're pushing technology to its limits and then changing the way the consumers, or let's say, we're actually focused on the millennial generation, that they look at electric cars. So everything that surrounds the electric car, we want to be on the cutting edge of that technology. So this is why we're so excited about this panel today, because we're going to be talking about some disruptive technology, or we will prefer to say positive transformative technology.
Yeah, I like the shift, and I want to mention on that note that, as you know, I've been calling Formula E the poster child of the Great Transition, which is our theme at the summit. And really it represents not only going from combustion motors to electric motors, but also in the larger context of engaging public attention as you go around the world for the next 2 years in these major cities. It also represents the transition from coal to wind, and from gas to solar. So moving into our next question, how are you?
Show the video. Actually, yeah, we're going to start a video.
Okay, great.
It's kind of giving an intro.
Okay, so I'm sorry, a little out of sequence. So there's a video that we want to show everybody in the room that's going to kind of, a picture tells 1,000 words. So.
What's happening now is that the melt in the summer is greater than the growth in the winter. So you will have a summer Arctic which is actually ice-free, and this will come about very soon.
And if we let that happen, that's a potential tipping point that we don't want to pass.
It's frustrating when the science is in front of us. The baseline fact of climate change is not something that we can afford to deny.
The idea of human-induced global climate change is one of the greatest hoaxes perpetrated out of the scientific community. It is a hoax.
If you look at big oil and the whole fossil fuel industry, they are the bottleneck to our society. If you want to resolve both of these equations, you need to figure out a clean energy source that's abundant. Something so simple that has a butterfly effect on the whole fabric of society. And Mo's got that.
I have something that mankind desperately needs, and I'm here to give it away for free. My name is Mohammed Kodabash. I have discovered a way to separate the bonds of hydrogen and oxygen with mechanical means.
He's got something that can break hydrogen out of water at 200 Celsius. When you pour water on one side and you light a flame on the other, something's up.
Water can be split into oxygen and hydrogen.
Hydrogen is that building block for energy global, and hydrogen is in everything.
If we can make this transition to be only hydrogen without carbon and fossil fuel, most of these issues we have will be eliminated.
When you have infinite amounts of energy, anything is possible.
Brian Sherbakow, CEO of Alt Air Fuels. Specifically at my business, I'm looking at hydrogen going into fuel production. It's hard to overstate how impactful Mo's invention is going to be on our lives.
Mo's simple technology. You can produce vast amounts of hydrogen cheaply, abundantly, out of water.
The way I do it is cheaper than anything that mankind has ever seen. It's cheaper than purchasing water. This is a game changer.
It's a beautiful work, and it's a hard work to go against the grain and against the whole understanding of mankind.
Hydrogen is one of the great puzzles that scientists have been working on, for a long time.
People have tried fuel cells since the 1830s. I'm skeptical, I'm hopeful, but I'm skeptical.
Are we able to do this? We have no option. It's like having cancer, and the only treatment that you have right now is chemo. We're poisoning ourselves by using crude oil.
Wow. What can I say except for perhaps this could be the greatest development in modern human history, right? I think, actually I'm stealing somebody's quote. But, well, tell us your philosophy about where innovative ideas can come from outside of the institutional paths.
Basically, just to step backwards a little bit, I'll tell you a little bit about Veramonte, which Robbie mentioned at first, but Veramonte, we're a global, international business. We get involved with real estate, agriculture, and interestingly enough, over the last 2 years, we became involved in Formula E, which is the FIA's exclusive electric racing championship. There's another panel on that will tell you more, but basically it opened the door to the world, to us. I mean, Formula E is on 4 different continents. This year it'll be 9 iconic cities. Next year, many more, addressing different countries. But what it's done is it's allowed us to engage from, I would call, out in the field to corporations to governments, and discover that there are innovators out there that are working. I think there was a quote yesterday, working out, necessity, because to create innovation, sometimes there's the passion there that sometimes it's a life or death situation. So we believe that there are those innovators out there that have created and are creating life-changing technologies and innovations. And that kind of leads over to our great discovery of Mo.
Exactly. So, a panel yesterday mentioned access to information, communication. So what we're seeing, something is unlike anything in history today. What we call it is, the best way I can describe it is it's a central nervous system. So you'll realize that within the next 10 years, everybody's going to be under complete connection. So these ideas and dreams of these individuals, they have access to information. So you're going to find technologies and ways of looking at life completely different than we do today in our typical institutions of multinationals or the big universities, MIT, or the think tanks. But now you're going to have individuals who are on the outskirts of Mumbai or in Timbuktu, who is a kid who has a cell phone, and he's discovered a way to do something better than anybody else has on the planet. And our focus is to find those individuals, be a catalyst for them, so they can realize those dreams, and then we can plug them into the network of all the connections that we have internationally. So, and Mohammed is a perfect example of that. He's based in Los Angeles, and he's come up with this technology in his own home, in a garage. So this is the type of individual we want to look for.
Absolutely. And before we get to Mo and Brian, I want to acknowledge how much travel you do, I'm aware of, on a yearly basis. And, tell us about how it is, how do you actually, how do these people come to you? I mean, you're obviously moving around a lot, and then, you invited me. I remember we went and saw Mo's technology in Los Angeles in a parking lot, and I didn't really know what I was looking at the time, I'll be honest with you. I was like, well, what is this guy doing with, lighting up, a little flame out of this motor? And but to come later to realize that that's hydrogen on demand, it's almost like it's too good to be true.
Yeah, no, it's a safe way of transporting hydrogen, because today, everybody's saying, well, how do we transport hydrogen from point A to point B? But if you can carry it in water and pull it out on demand, that kind of changes the whole equation.
Well, that eliminates the transportation issue of a very volatile gas.
Exactly. So I believe he's definitely onto something. I'm not answering your question just yet, but when I'm diving into this, he has something that is very breakthrough. And if we can invest, get enough engineers and scientists around this technology, because whether it's a Spark and he's in version 1.0, if we put our intention toward this, we could actually grow this into something very, very big. So these individuals, to answer your question, these individuals just, how can I say, they come to us.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's through the things we're doing, like Formula E, I mean, it is kind of like you said earlier, we're the road show. We are the traveling road show that is promoting sustainability and innovation.
And you're launching Formula E 1 month from today in Beijing,
1 month
is that
from
right?
today in Beijing, September 13th. Yes.
And then it goes to 10 cities around the world for 2 years.
Well, the first season will go to 8 more cities after Beijing. So we're going to go on to Malaysia, then to Uruguay, Buenos Aires, Miami, Los Angeles, Berlin, Monaco, and London.
And I think that you have some kind of an arrangement with Fox Sports to get this out to the people?
Exactly. The Fox Sports will be broadcasting to upwards of 600 million people in 88 countries. And I invite you to come back because we're going to have, I think it's tomorrow, we're going to have a further discussion on Formula E.
Great. Mo, I mean, what happens? You just wake up one morning and you go, I got it?
Not really. I was standing on the tip of the toilet, hanging out.
He calls it the
flux capacitor. No, I worked very hard to reach here. And thanks to Robbie and his crew. Almost 7 years ago, I came up with this idea and made this unit. But I shelved it for 4 years before I met Robbie. There was no way for me to get this out. I tried so many different ways. I almost ran out of money and went bankrupt. So I had to park it, go back to work again, then start all over again. There is a problem out there. Inventors cannot get help. There are no investors. There are a lot of people out there that they're talking about green fund and all that, but it's not accessible to us. People in my level, it's impossible. And I have tried.
Well, everything in its own time, and I guess they say timing is everything. So, Brian, can you tell us a little bit about how this factors into some of the work that you do with Robbie and biofuels?
Sure. So I don't work directly with Veramonte, but the company that I helped co-found and now I'm CEO of is a beneficiary of sort of this activation network that they've put together. So I'm co-founder and CEO of Altair Fuels. We're a manufacturer of renewable transportation fuels, primarily renewable aviation fuel and renewable diesel fuels. We're currently in the end game of construction of our first refinery. Last year when I was here, I was happy to announce that we had finalized all of our funding and launched our project. We've got a joint venture with a large petroleum refining company just in LA, about 20 miles southeast of LAX. And we're taking over about 30% of their assets at that refinery and converting them to completely renewable fuel production. And we were able to sign a contract with United Airlines for the first commercial offtake contract for the next 3 years for them to utilize renewable aviation fuel. They're going to be using the fuel on dedicated routes from LA to New York City starting in the first quarter of this next year. So, several years ago, Veramonte, through some real estate investments, found themselves in position of holding lots of soy production, and as a result of the soy land that they purchased, they also had some biodiesel production. And as a result of some efforts by Robbie to figure out how to improve that production, we ran across each other. And we talked about the technology that I was looking to implement at that time, which is sort of a second generation fuel. So these are renewable hydrocarbons. So they're actually molecular replacements as opposed to first generation biodiesel and ethanol, which are really additives. What we make is actually a molecularly identical fuel. And so I think what's interesting for me with regard to what Mohammed has developed or is continuing to develop here is the fact that we're sourcing our feedstocks renewably right now, and we're making renewable hydrocarbons, but our process is a thermocatalytic hydroprocessing technology. The key piece there being for this is hydrogen, hydroprocessing. So right now hydrogen is primarily made from fossil fuels. the majority of hydrogen production rather, comes from steam methane reforming, which is reforming of natural gas. So this is the opportunity to take a truly renewable hydrogen component and add it in, and one more link in the chain of getting to a completely renewable hydrocarbon. And I think for me, what's incredibly exciting about it, from what we were able to actualize with our implementation, which is taking over existing infrastructure and assets. There's trillions of dollars of existing petroleum infrastructure in place, and the ability to actually repurpose that and actually also engage in partnerships with the existing petroleum industry is the way that I think you can ramp this very, very quickly. You're basically taking a novel and renewable process, but you're empowering the incumbents, and instead of threatening them, you're actually making them make more money, which is, I think, the key to actualization of this. So we in our refinery have the ability to integrate Mo's technology successfully. It's dependent upon excess available heat. The breakthrough here is that it's done at a very low temperature, 200 C, which is completely novel and has not been achieved other than what Mo has achieved. And refineries globally have tremendous amounts of excess heat that they release into the atmosphere. And then the second one is water. And our process actually creates a tremendous amount of excess water. So we have the ability to take our waste streams of heat and water and utilizing this technology, create a very efficient loop and add in renewable hydrogen.
And one of the things that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but just to simplify it to my understanding, is that we could take this technology and adapt it to any of the billion cars, trucks, and buses on the planet, and then they would get an efficiency increase of anywhere up to 50% or more.
Well, we don't want to say the amount of efficiencies just yet, but we're at the beginning stages. That there will be an efficiency for sure. We don't know what that is yet, but again, this is version 1.0. As this gets developed and perfected, and what we want to do is bring a big team together of engineers and scientists around this technology, and to make it more advanced, that we get much more higher efficiency. So what he's basically doing, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mo,
go ahead,
is basically he's grabbing all the waste heat from these engines. And as you know, combustion engine is very inefficient. They're running 20-25% efficiency. The rest is lost in heat and mechanical loss of energy. And what he's doing is harvesting that energy that's lost, the heat, converting into an applicable energy source, which is hydrogen, and he runs it right back into the system. So you're able to use an existing infrastructure and gain these, get these great efficiencies. Both in this could be for power generation, coal plants. It could be for any combustion engine in the world. So that's why we're really excited about it. And it also has no moving parts, which is important. They're very easy to make. There's no what we call as expensive materials. There's no palladium or platinum, no high pressures. So that changes the whole equation on a hydrogen, because today hydrogen is, and I'm sure Brian can more elaborate on where hydrogen comes from today, but from what I understand, it's coming from a carbon source, most of it.
Yeah, the primary source of it, again, is steam methane reforming, which, primarily natural gas or certainly other hydrocarbons, petroleum hydrocarbon gases. Industrial hydrogen primarily goes today into, approximately half of it goes into the petroleum sector, and the other half is essentially going into ammonia production for fertilizers. And that, again, is utilizing steam, methane, nickel is the catalyst in that process. And it's not terribly efficient. It's 65 to 75% efficiency. So that's the benchmark that you have to beat. So I think that what we've seen so far, what Mo's technology has, by harvesting, again, existing waste streams, has the potential to improve upon that efficiency.
And we look at as water, oceans, as a place where we have infinite amounts of hydrogen. We just don't have the key to unlock it. And if we can figure out that key to unlock that energy source, it's abundant.
Well, I mean, I think what we're finding here in this conversation is that, we're being given the opportunity to give the world a way to actually stop burning all of the fossil fuels that are heating up our atmosphere, or at least take the foot off the accelerator, where we're just redlining the system, and give the Earth and its systems a bit of a breather. But I'm really curious about how quickly, speed and scale is the issue, and how fast we can implement. But let's get back to the actual technology. So have you been able to do any tests on this? Are there any verifications beyond what we've seen so far?
Yes, we have. I'm not, if I'm in liberty of mentioning where we have taken this, but we have, yes, extensive testing on that.
Great.
But our next step is national laboratory.
Yeah, we want to go
which
to
is
NREL
within about 3 months or so.
Right. Great, great. I mean, that's...
Then MIT. Have the big boys happy.
So MIT and the National Renewable Energy Laboratory.
Hopefully they would understand it.
Right, right. I know, I can see that there might be some skepticism, when you have
Just
a break.
Just a little bit. Just a tiny bit.
Trust me, a lot.
Well, we need to have the hope quotient. Al Gore calls it the hope quotient. A lot of people are unable to take action because they feel disempowered, that we're addicted to this system. There's nothing we can do about it, and when we know that that's not the case. And so, I think that there's just amazing opportunity to move forward. Robbie, in the video clip we saw, Mo mentioned giving this technology away for free. Some would say that approach is extreme and nonsensical. Can you elaborate on that a little?
Actually, I think it would be probably better for Mohammed to elaborate more on that.
Giving it free. We've already done that. We've taken the first step at United Nations. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we were at the UN about 6 weeks ago, and he wants to gift this to let's call it the emerging markets: India, Africa, Southeast Asia, and his idea is to donate the technology for other companies to implement this and grab the proceeds of that to continue to give it to the emerging markets, to Central Africa, wherever they need this the most. So when he says gifting, he doesn't want to gift it to the rich nations, but he wants to gift it for the emerging markets that really need this.
Right, because we all know that there's not enough oil and coal and gas left in the ground for folks in India and Africa to have the same level of, or China, lifestyle that we have.
Oh, we use 25% of the world's energy, I believe, is that correct? And we're less than 5% of the world's population. So unless we find another energy source, we're never going to make it. And we need to find those new technologies. And they're mentioning yesterday solar and wind, and I think that represents 5%. I mean, we're never going to make it. And you can see everybody talked about 2-degree increase in temperature, but we have no idea what that represents for the planet Earth. Everybody kind of skepticals will say, well, that's going to do this, the water's going to go up, but we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, there's going to be a butterfly effect that's going to have irreversible implications for a whole entire world.
Supposing that the emerging countries, markets adopt this, but what about in the first world, China, United States, the EU? I mean, there's got to be some very definite market strategies that are going to allow for the fast adoption, Brian?
So I think that given the magnitude of the markets, the concept is a licensing model so that we can partner with sort of best in breed in different verticals that can then take this and adopt it and utilize their existing businesses, their existing relationships, et cetera, to ramp it pretty quickly. So as an example, in the oil and gas space, which is kind of the world in which my project exists, there's obviously tremendous applications I've been discussing. And the technology partner that I work with is a subsidiary of Honeywell called UOP. It's about a $6 billion oil and gas subsidiary of Honeywell. And there's pretty much every refinery globally utilizes some form of their technology. And we're in discussions with them about how to integrate into their processes so that they can brand it and market it to get it out there pretty quickly. So again, the concept isn't to try to do everything inside this one company, but to license it out to best of breed. And through that process, that's sort of, I think, the implementation of giving it away for free is you have the opportunity to license it very inexpensively or free to get it into certain markets. But you can certainly monetize it by working within other mature markets that you're discussing.
Yeah, the ramifications are enormous, and just in the utility sector and how we power our grid, mostly from coal, oil, and gas, and to be able to increase the efficiencies there. So basically, you're saying that you're going to allow the owners of all the various sectors of the grid, the ISOs, et cetera, to actually make more money. Is the point?
Well, again, a lot of industrial processes, not just oil and gas, but in the chemical space or manufacturing space, they produce a lot of waste heat. And so as long as there's access to appropriate and inexpensive water as well, you have an ability suddenly to produce the hydrogen, which can be combined with other technologies to produce inexpensive energy, electricities, et cetera. So yeah, there's tremendous opportunity there.